Let's talk about Chicago, because Chicago is broke. This is the governor of the state where Chicago resides. And the fact that their most important city is broke tells you that this man has been cheating its citizens this whole time. He talks a lot of crap about other states, but those states actually care about their citizens, unlike Illinois' governor. So let's watch. Well, you know what? Let me give you a little background on the mayor of Chicago, and then we'll get to that. All right. So, mayor of Chicago, nearly $40 billion in city debt. Roughly $43,000 per taxpayer, with Illinois adding even more debt burden on residents. A growing net debt from $22 billion in 2014 to $29.2 billion in 2023 marks 32.8% increase, while per resident debt rose 30.3% from about $8,166 to $10,642. Pension plans for city employees remain severely underfunded, and efforts to reform them were blocked by the Illinois Supreme Court in 2016. The city is grappling with a projected $1.12 billion deficit for fiscal year 2026, prompting the consideration of a controversial corporate head tax. Yeah, that's such a good idea, because it's not like people have already left the city. Overall projections show budget gaps ballooning from 223 million in 2024 to nearly $1 billion in 2025, driven by pension obligations and declining tax revenues. Gee, I wonder why it's declining tax revenues. Maybe because of the corporate tax. Corporate departures, including giants like Boeing, Caterpillar, Citadel, and Salesforce, have emptied downtown, pushing office vacancies rates to about 16.2%, well above the national average. This has fueled rising risks of defaults on commercial real estate loans, and assets are selling for steep losses, putting additional pressure on property taxes and revenue streams. So you know what that means, right? Property taxes are going to go up. All right, so what's another one here? Mayor Brandon Johnson warned that Chicago's finances have reached a point of no return. We'll watch that really quick. The city has enlisted consulting firm Ernst & Young to help craft cost-saving measures and strategies aiming to stabilize services and close significant budget holes. Let's take a look at this guy. This is a great example as to why Democrats can't govern.
The mayor is downplaying the idea of raising taxes, which is not a surprise because no politician wants to talk about hiking any taxes unless or until there's no other option. But given the pushback from the city council last year, it's setting the stage for a major budget battle this fall.
The mayor lost a bitter battle over raising property taxes last year when the projected budget deficit was not as bad as the one he is now facing, and it may not get any better during this upcoming budget season.
I don't think Chicagoans trust the mayor with the checkbook, frankly. And I think that introduction of a property tax increase will get pushed back really hard. The residents of the 13th Ward have no appetite for a property tax increase.
During an unrelated news conference, the mayor tried to walk back the comments of his chief financial officer about a property tax increase being likely.
We have a working group that is coming up with a lot of ideas. Some of those ideas have been already pushed through my administration for us to contemplate. It's still too early to determine what our ultimate package will look like.
The mayor could opt for the automatic property tax hike that is tied to inflation but capped at 5%, which could provide him some political cover, but that may not lessen the pushback from Alders.
We need to see somewhere we're going to cut in this budget, and residents cannot continue getting squeezed out with taxes and fees. We're tired of that. They're always feeling the burden. And it's not going to be with property taxes.
Last year, the mayor floated a $300 million property tax hike, but the city council shot that down 50-0. He tried reducing it to win votes, but eventually was forced to drop the idea altogether.
So it's a flat no. And the mayor hasn't proved otherwise. He hasn't come first with a list of reforms.
Yeah, Terrell and Tanya, the ball is essentially in the council's court. It's up to them to see if they have the votes necessary to override the mayor's veto. Now, Johnson presented a veto of the ordinance during a news conference on the 5th floor of City Hall earlier this morning. The proposed ordinance would have allowed the Chicago police superintendent to declare a curfew with just 30 minutes notice. Preventing teen takeovers was a large part of the reason for this curfew in the first place. Johnson has called the measure bad public policy that could lead to lawsuits. And during his news conference, Johnson says his office is continuing to pour into the city's young people.
It doesn't mean criminalizing our young people. We need to stand firm and do what is right. And that means investing in our young people. That is why this summer I'm so proud that we will hire 29,000 young people for summer jobs, a 45% increase since taking office.
Now, the ordinance's sponsor, Second Ward Alderman Brian Hopkins, says he needs to whip up 34 votes from council to counter the mayor's veto. He says he's unsure if there are enough votes to clear a counter veto on the measure.
The superintendent sat at that meeting with me and asked for this. He asked for this ordinance to be passed, and the mayor just denied that. This is unconscionable, and the city of Chicago needs to know the next violent teen takeover that happens, when the blood sheds, it's on them.
In a nutshell, Fat Dude is the cheater, not Texas Governor Abbott. That's why the companies that were in Chicago and were known to reside in Chicago for a long time, since the creation of those companies, left Chicago to go to Texas, because Texas and Florida are business-friendly states, unlike Chicago, well, unlike Illinois, or Chicago, the city itself, or California, or New York. Liberal states are not business-friendly. That's obvious. I mean, one of the reasons people say, like, there was an interview of a journalist talking to the mayor of Chicago, and then he brings up the crime rates going down. If the crime rates are going down, why are businesses leaving? They're not just leaving because of the high corporate taxes. They're used to that. You're a liberal state. Illinois has the highest corporate tax rate in the country. So that's not the reason why they're leaving. They're used to the high corporate tax rate. They're leaving because also the crime rate is spiking like never before. Like, I'm so tired of these damn liberals. I'm not even gonna call them liberals, because liberals would be like, all right, you know, if you're a juvenile and you committed a heinous crime, you should go to jail, and you should be there for a minute, depending on how bad the crime is. But progressives are like, no, they're minors. Like, who cares if they're minors? If they're literally committing felonies, they should be treated like adults. None of this BS like, oh, we're gonna open summer jobs. Yeah, you're assuming they want to work, guy. Hello? If they're acting out like criminals, then it's because they don't want to work. They want to be criminals. And you're allowing them to be criminals by not actually throwing down the law and saying, I don't care how old you are. If you commit a crime, you're going to jail. I don't care how old you are. See how fast the crime rate for juveniles will go down if they were to actually put the law in place, like blanket across the board. Doesn't matter how old you are, what color your skin you are, your ass is going to jail if you commit a felony. That's it. Plain and simple. You want to rob? No problem. You're going to jail. You want to hurt somebody? No problem. You're going to jail. Simple. Like, this progressive mentality when it comes to like criminality and with juveniles must end. That is literally pro-crime. You allowing juveniles to commit crime because they're juveniles and you think they shouldn't go to jail or prison because they're juveniles is pro-crime. You're saying F you to taxpayers. You're saying F you to businesses. And you're saying, yeah, I want crime. I want crime in my cities. I don't care about the taxpayers who have to then feel the burden afterwards, or the businesses who are getting their private properties damaged. So to me, progressives need to stop with this pro-crime soft on juvenile crime mentality. If you actually care about the taxpayers, then you would lay down the law on anybody who commits a crime, especially if it's a juvenile, because no juvenile should be even thinking about committing crime. They should be focusing on how to, I don't know, study, get an education, be a civilized human being in society. So, and honestly, I want to take it down, like, let's like rank it up a little bit. The parents should also have to, I don't know, there should be a fine or something. Like, if your child is caught committing a felony or does something illegal, we should find the parents and say, yeah, you're gonna have to pay this fine because you should have not allowed. You're the guardian of this child. Your child committed a crime, damaged private property, or hurt somebody. Yeah, you're gonna have to pay a fine, and your kid's gonna go to prison now, depending on how severe it is. I know that's kind of cutthroat, but how much you want to bet the crime will go down and parents will start caring about parenting?